If it's Friday night, it is Strictly Sports Football Friday. Hello, friends. Anthony Floyer here with you again for another edition of Strictly Sports Football Friday. Yes, Movement runs the show here tonight as I'm here along with Michael Bullock. If you didn't see Michael, yes, indeed. Michael Fletcher, our other colleague, our other partner in crime, he's not with us tonight. He's not here with us, of course. You know the reason, work commitments as usual. So with all that said, it's going to be a little bit on the shorter side of things this time around. So
we're looking at a short show tonight.
Yep, indeed we are, because very light docket indeed.
The four wild card games, the college football playoff and national championship game, and of course our final power rankings of the year.
Yes, indeed. Like Mr. Bullock said, we got all four games of NFL wildcard weekend on the docket, as well as the college football playoff national championship game on Monday night with Alabama and Clemson. And then last but not least, our, for sure, final NFL power rankings of this season before we move on to next week. So with all that said, let's dive right on in. Welcome in any new viewers who may be just joining us. So here we go. NFL wildcard weekend, of course, it starts tomorrow afternoon, 4:35 kickoff. This game is going to be simulcast on both ESPN and ABC, which I don't know why for the life of me they're doing this, but it is what it is. Now it's a little different here. For so many years, every year since the whole wild card format started in the 1990 season, it was always one AFC game and one NFC game on Saturday and Sunday. This time around, Saturday, we're going to have both AFC games, and Sunday, we're going to have both NFC games. Very interesting indeed. And we're going to start it off with our first AFC game tomorrow. Like I said, 4:35 kickoff. It's going to be simulcast, ESPN, ABC. The Kansas City Chiefs going up against the Houston Texans. NRG Stadium in Houston, formerly Reliant Stadium, is going to have this game. For the life of me, I don't know why this game's in Houston. This game should be in Kansas City on account of Kansas City had the better record. That's something that, Commissioner Dinkelberg really needs to look into, honestly. But of course, we all know he's not going to. So, but if it was us, this game would be in Kansas City far and away because they deserve it more. Granted, I know Houston won the division. I get it. And Kansas City's a wild card team. I get it. But me being the old school traditionalist that I am and always will be, the game should be in Kansas City on account of Kansas City was 11-5, Houston was 9-7. Coincidence? I think not. So, but nonetheless, it's in Houston anyway. It's the Chiefs and the Texans, and Kansas City, rightfully so, is the favorite, 3 to 3.5 point favorites. So, this is the first time that they are meeting in the postseason. They've never met in the postseason before. They have met, before 7 times, and the Chiefs lead the all-time series by a count of 4-3. Of course, they met earlier this year on opening day, a game which the Kansas City Chiefs won by a score of 27-20. That game was also in Houston. And of course, as we all know, the game, like I said, since it's on ESPN and ABC, you would have to imagine it has to be Mike Tirico. It's going to be Mike Tirico, John Gruden, and Lisa Salters on the call. You would have to imagine that. So, looking at the schematics from the game in Houston in Week 1, I'm just looking at everything else here. Kansas City dominated the time of possession 35 minutes and 19 seconds to 24 minutes and 41 seconds for Houston. The rushing yards were even, but were pretty even though Houston outgained Kansas City 98-97. And passing yards also went to Houston 298 to 233. So, and the Chief defense recorded 5 sacks of two different quarterbacks. They sacked Brian Hoyer 4 times and Ryan Mallett once. And the Houston defense recorded 2 sacks of Alex Smith. One of those, of course, as we all know, J.J. Watt. Interesting note, J.J. Watt and a breakout, and I do mean breakout, young defensive star by the name of Whitney Mercilus combined, those 2 young men combined for 29.5 sacks this season. 17.5 for J.J. Watt, 12 for Mercilus. So Kansas City will definitely have to, try to find a way to get to that Houston defense, which is pretty tough. I will admit that. So, so they're going to have to try to find a way to contain Mercilus and Watt, because we all know what Watt and Mercilus can do. But you go back to that previous meeting. I thought I had some good information here. I guess I stand corrected. I want to make sure I have the proper information for you, the proper schematics from the opening game. Houston outgained Kansas City 396 to 330. But the thing is, the Chiefs did not commit any turnovers. The Chief defense, however, forced 2 Houston turnovers and recorded 5 sacks. Like I said, they got to Hoyer 4 times and Mallett once. The Texan defense got 2 sacks of Alex Smith, but Alex Smith threw 3 touchdown passes, 243 yards. Brian Hoyer, 236 yards, a touchdown and an interception. And then Ryan Mallett comes in, throws for 98 yards and a touchdown pass, no interceptions. Jamal Charles led Kansas City's rushing attack with 57 yards, and Alfred Blue led the Houston rushing attack with 42 yards. Receiving-wise, Travis Kelce had 106 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. Jamal Charles had a receiving touchdown. Nate Washington led the Texan receiving corps with 105 yards receiving, but DeAndre Hopkins had 2 receiving touchdowns to go with 98 yards. Like I said, 5 sacks for the Chief defense. That was led by Allen Bailey, who had 2. And then 1 sack apiece for Derek Johnson, Jay Howard, and Justin Houston. And also Marcus Peters had the first of his 8 interceptions of the season in that game too. And J.J. Watt had 2 sacks, by the way. J.J. Watt recorded both sacks and also had 9 solo tackles in that game as well. So needless to say, he had a great game, even though Kansas City came away with the win. So those are all the schematics you need to know about from the Chiefs and Texans from that previous meeting in week 1 of this year. This can go either way, I will be honest with you, because we're looking at two of the hotter teams in the AFC right now, if you really think about it. Okay, so you got the Kansas City Chiefs, who have won 10 games in a row. I mean, what a story for the Chiefs. I mean, they beat Houston on opening week, start the year 1-0. Then go figure after that, they lose 5 in a row. They're 1-5, and we're thinking, yeah, it's going to be another so-so year for Kansas City. Oh, no. Boy, were we wrong. They go 1-5, and then they reel off 10 wins in a row, and they finish the year 11-5. Unreal. Shows you anything can happen, folks. And then look at the Houston Texans, who started the year 2-5. They started the year 2-5, and since then they've gone 7-2 to get to 9-7, and surprisingly come out of a very disappointing and lackluster AFC South. The turning point for them, obviously, this year, of course, was when they went into Indianapolis and beat the Colts at Lucas Oil Stadium for the first time ever. They had never beaten Indianapolis in Indianapolis before. That was until this year. And it was that win that single-handedly won them that division. And of course, like I said, Chiefs 10 wins in a row. So who do you go with? Do you go with the team that's won 10 in a row? Or do you go for a team that's gone 7-2 in their last 9 games after a dreadful start of their own at 2-5? Very tough to call. I'm going to be honest with you. Alex Smith playing some great ball. The running game we thought was going to be, hard times because of the fact that Jamal Charles got hurt. But Charcandrick West has definitely carried the load. And then, of course, you got those great young receivers like Travis Kelce and Jeremy Maclin and that great core. And then a very good defense with Dontari Poe and, of course, Tamba Ali and Justin Houston and Derek Johnson, who is a beast. I know Derek Johnson for a fact is a beast. And then you look at the Houston side. You know it's going to be Brian Hoyer because Mallett's not there anymore. Mallett's in Baltimore. So Hoyer will get the start for Houston. You have to imagine probably going to be Alfred Blue on the running attack because I'm pretty sure Arian Foster, he was done for the year. I'm pretty sure he got hurt badly. And then you got DeAndre Hopkins, who's one of the most talented young receivers in the game today and is so dynamic and fun to watch. And then, of course, like I said, that Texan defense, which is led by that two-headed monster known as J.J. Watt and Whitney Mercilus. So this is very tough to call. I mean, if this game was in Kansas City, easily Kansas City wins. But with this in Houston, the Texans do have a chance here. They have a realistic chance of winning this. They really do. But I'm going to be honest with you. Kansas City is scary good right now. So I'm expecting behind Alex Smith and Travis Kelce in the receiving core and just enough on the defense, I'm going to take a chance and I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs to win this game against the Houston Texans. And I'm going to say the final score here, I think it's going to be a little more lower scoring this time around. I'm going to go 20-17. The Kansas City Chiefs defeat the Houston Texans and advance to the AFC divisional playoff. So with that said, Michael Bullock, Chiefs and Texans, first game out of the docket. Do you agree with me? Do you have the Chiefs moving on, or do you actually think the Texans have a chance to move on? Michael Bullock, front and center.
All right, thank you very much, Anthony Florio. Yes, this is Mike Bullock here for our Strictly Sports Football Friday. Delighted to be here as always. This is a very interesting first game of Wild Card weekend. I mean, you got two really, really good hot teams going into the playoffs. None more hotter than the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, go figure. I mean, this team, they started the season 1-5. I mean, that one win that was on opening day against these very same Houston Texans, and then they proceeded to lose 5 in a row. And I was thinking, like, yep, it's going to be another hard times year for the Kansas City Chiefs. So, but no, that hasn't been the case. They've won 10 in a row to close out the regular season, and I mean all this without Justin Houston, Tamba Hali, and probably one of their best, if not the best, running back in the NFL, and Jamal Charles when he got hurt. So yeah, I never would have thought of that. And Houston with winning their division at 9-7. This was basically their third South Division title in 5 seasons, and with no Arian Foster, who suffered a season-ending Achilles injury back in Week 7, and with the quarterback situation going on, and the thing is, the Texans defense in the first 7 games, they were giving up over about 28 points a game and almost 371 yards a game. But in the last 9, that's gone down to almost 13 points a game and 263. So very interesting matchup here. So, of course, one of the other reasons why Houston's here, not just because of the defense, but one of their wide receivers, DeAndre Hopkins. So, but the thing is, Houston's not going. They're not going to have Dwayne Brown for the postseason because of a quad injury. But here's the thing for the Kansas City Chiefs. They're expected to have Justin Houston back for this game after he missed the last 5 with a knee injury. So that's going to be a huge boost for them. So yeah, so now basically who do you go with here? Do you go with the Houston Texans or the Kansas City Chiefs? Man, this is tough, but to be quite honest, I have to go with the hot hand. I got to agree with you, Florio. I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs as well. I'm going to say my final score, for me anyway, I think it's going to be, I'm going to go just a little bit higher, not too much. I'm going to say 24-21. The Kansas City Chiefs win this game and move on to divisional weekend. So I really got nothing more to say except Florio. Let's move on to the next game of the next game of Wild Card Weekend and the final on the AFC side.
Indeed. And this is the bigger of the 2 games, you better believe it. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers going up against the Cincinnati Bengals, Paul Brown Stadium in Cincinnati, Ohio. That's where we're going to be for this one. This game's going to be broadcast on CBS. And and I'm pretty sure we know who's going to be doing this game.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Nantz,
and Phil Simms, and Tracy Wolfson.
Yes. Jim Nantz, Phil Simms, Tracy Wolfson very likely will be on the call for this game tomorrow night. The Steelers and the Bengals on CBS. Of course, we all know they split the 2 games in the regular season this year. Both teams won on the road. Cincinnati won in Pittsburgh back on November 1st. That was a 16-10 final. And then I believe it was on December 13th where Pittsburgh won in Cincinnati 33-20. So they have met in the postseason before. 10 years ago, January of 2006, AFC wildcard game in Cincinnati. And it was the Steelers that won that game by a score of 31-17 behind 3 touchdown passes by Ben Roethlisberger in that game, and Carson Palmer injured at the hands of Kimo von Oelhoffen. And the Bengals pretty much were not the same after that. So Steelers looking, of course, the Steelers. Well, I should have mentioned earlier, the Chiefs are going to be looking for their first postseason win since upsetting the heavily favored Houston Oilers back in January of 1994 in the Astrodome. And then, of course, they went on to get, holiday hand by my Buffalo Bills in the AFC Championship game, much to my delight. Of course, that's when the Bills went to their 4th straight Super Bowl that year. Too bad nothing was made out of that. And then, of course, the Texans looking for their 2nd playoff win 3rd playoff win all time, rather. So we'll see. Steelers are going to be looking for their first postseason win since, of course, the 2010 season, of course, when they went all the way to Super Bowl 45, when they lost to the Green Bay Packers. Whereas the Bengals, well, I believe they have the longest drought of any team, of any active NFL team, without, the longest drought of any team between postseason wins. Bullock, they haven't won a postseason game for as long as you and I have been friends. Quarter century. Yeesh. That's wow. I believe it was the very first season of wild card play. I think that was in January of '91, and I believe that game was against the Kansas City Chiefs, if I'm not mistaken. I think they beat the Chiefs in that inaugural wild card game, and then they were beaten in the divisional round by the then Los Angeles Raiders at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. So Bullock, I now ask you the question: is it going to be deja vu all over again? Are the Pittsburgh Steelers going to go into Cincinnati like they did 10 years ago and stick it to their division rivals yet again? Or can the Bengals do the unthinkable and win their first postseason game in a quarter century? Bullock, what do you think?
Well, I mean, like you said with the Cincinnati Bengals, they're trying to end one of the longest postseason droughts in history, while the Pittsburgh Steelers, I mean, they're a team that's to me, I think that's on a roll right now, and is a definite team that's definitely to keep an eye on throughout not just this game but in the postseason. Let's not kid ourselves here. Uh, yeah, of course. For the Cincinnati Bengals, we already knew today that they're going to be without Andy Dalton. Excuse me. Uh, he's going to miss the game because of that thumb injury. So AJ McCarron's going to get the start again on Saturday night. And then, of course, we also know on the Pittsburgh side, DeAngelo Williams is going to miss the game with an injury. So, yeah, each of these two has split a game between each other. So, yeah, so the Bengals, they basically haven't won a playoff game in 25 years and basically have lost 7 straight in the postseason. So, yeah, so basically, yeah, this is and here's the thing, they're the only team in league history to lose an opening round game 4 years in a row, and only one has been decided by fewer than 16 points with an outmatched offense averaging almost 11 points a game and almost 300 yards a game. So yeah. Uh, and for the Pittsburgh Steelers, basically, it's their defense. What can you say? What a season for that defense under first-year defensive coordinator Keith Butler. They had 48 sacks during the regular season, only trailing Denver and New England, and their 17 interceptions was tied for sixth, up from 33 and 11 last season, and the club's most in each category since 2010. But for Pittsburgh, however, they've given up an average of 363 yards a game, which ranks 21st and ahead of just one other playoff team, and it's 20 points allowed per game is also acceptable. So it's going to be interesting. But here's the thing for the Cincinnati defense: they got to try to contain. They got to contain that duo of course, Martavis Bryant and probably the best wide receiver in the National Football League, and Antonio Brown. So, and the thing is, for the Cincinnati, they've always struggled in these when it's the national spotlight on them. So, some people would say Cincinnati should be the favorite in this game, and rightly so because of the record but because of their past, I for one, I can't. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they're gonna win this game. They're gonna go into Cincinnati and beat the Bengals in this one. I think it could be a close one, but I'm gonna go 38. I'm gonna actually say 38-31 is gonna be my final score. Um, Roethlisberger, I think he'll have a solid game. Same thing with Antonio Brown and Martavis Bryant. And I think that defense will make just enough plays to stop Cincinnati. So give me the Pittsburgh Steelers to win this one and let the playoff drought continue for Cincinnati. Florio, the $1 million question. Who you got winning this one? Do you got Pittsburgh going into Cincinnati and beating the Bengals, or do the Bengals finally end that long playoff drought?
Well, as much as I would love to see the Bengals end that long playoff drought, I got to agree with you, man. I mean, I really like Pittsburgh in this one. I mean, I forgot to mention Pittsburgh is a 3-point favorite, by the way. They're favored by 3 to win. So you are correct in the sentiments, Bullet. Pittsburgh is the favorite. That's not a surprise. Not a surprise to anyone. Because, like I said, I mean, and one of our viewers, who happens to be another longtime friend of mine, a longtime friend that I haven't seen in forever and a day. His name is Dan. We used to hang, in the old days, about 20 years ago or so. He commented on my post, and he actually has Cincinnati winning this game.
Yeah, I just saw that too.
Yeah, very surprising, but yeah, well, that's one man's opinion, but I gotta respectfully disagree with our friend here because it's just like Bullock said. I mean, how can we take Cincinnati seriously when their postseason drought is just weighs so heavily on you, man? I mean, not since, like I said, it hasn't been since January of '91 that man alive. But I'll tell you what, I mean, you never know. I mean, anything can happen. Anything can happen on any given day. I mean, well, Dan said, and I quote, "I honestly think this year the Bengals will win a playoff game. Too much offense." Okay. If Andy Dalton was playing, maybe I would consider it. But here's the thing. He's not. Andy Dalton's out. A.J. McCarron is going to be starting for Cincinnati. But, you do have a solid running game. You have Jeremy Hill, and you also have Gio Bernard. So we'll keep an eye on that. Of course, A.J. Green, who's another fantastic receiver. And, of course, you got a solid number 2 in Marvin Jones. And then you got a solid number 3 in Mohamed Sanu. And I think they may have Eifert back. I mean, because I believe Eifert played in that last game against Baltimore the other day, right? So I think he's back from his concussion protocol. So, yeah. So we'll see. Here's the thing. The only postseason experience that A.J. McCarron has is, of course, bowl games when he was in Alabama. This ain't Alabama. This is the big time. And he's going up against an already proven winner in Ben Roethlisberger, who's led this team to 2 Super Bowl appearances, winning 1 and losing 1. Of course, we all know. Now, ironically, when they beat the Cincinnati Bengals, they won Super Bowl 40. Well, correction. He's led them to 3 Super Bowls, winning 2 and losing 1. I stand corrected. He got them to 40, which came in the same year when they beat Cincinnati. It was in that year where the Steelers became the first number 6 seed to win the Super Bowl. They won 3 road games just to get there, winning in Cincinnati, then winning in Indianapolis, then winning in Denver, and then of course they beat Seattle at Ford Field in Detroit in Super Bowl 40. And then, of course, Super Bowl 43, they got there again, and they won in one of the greatest Super Bowls of all time, a Super Bowl that I consider, one of the 3 greatest of all time, Super Bowl 43 against Arizona. And then, of course, they got there again in Super Bowl 45, but they came up a little bit short against the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers, who we'll get into in a little bit. But, yeah. So, I agree with you, Michael Bullock. I got the Pittsburgh Steelers winning this game. I think Roethlisberger is going to have a humongous game. I really do. And even though they're not going to have D'Angelo Williams and a Michigan alum, Michael Bullock, a Michigan alum. Do you remember Fitzgerald Toussaint? I'm sure you do. He's going to be starting at running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Because remember, no Le'Veon Bell and now no D'Angelo Williams. So Fitzgerald Toussaint, the former Michigan man, he's going to get the call for the Steelers at running back. And then you have who I consider pound for pound the best receiver in the game today, and Antonio Brown. I think he's going to have a humongous game. And I also think Martavis Bryant's going to get in on the action as well. So I also have that defense as well. I think that defense is going to fluster and frustrate A.J. McCarron. So I hate to say it, but I think it's going to be a long Saturday night for the Cincinnati Bengals and their fans in Paul Brown Stadium. As much as I want to see them break that drought, I really do. I have to go with Michael Bullock here. I have to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers to win this game. I don't think it's going to be as high scoring as you think, Bullock, but you never know. It could. But I got Pittsburgh winning this thing. I'm going to go 30. I'm going to give you an unusual score here. I'm going to go 34-23. The Pittsburgh Steelers to defeat the Cincinnati Bengals in what should be a solid but not overly spectacular I should say wild card matchup. So with that said, we're going to move on to our next game as part of our wild card weekend, and it's an interesting one. It'll be the first ever postseason meeting between these two teams. As we switch to the NFC side of things, it's going to be the Seattle Seahawks going up against the Minnesota Vikings, TCF Bank Stadium on the campus of the University of Minnesota. And this game with a 1:05 kickoff. By the way, that Steeler-Bengal game is slated for an 8:15 kickoff tomorrow night. This Seahawks-Vikings game on Sunday afternoon is slated for a 1:05 kickoff. And this game is going to be on NBC. Yes, you heard me right. NBC is going to have this game. We're looking at the first 1 o'clock game on a Sunday since the old days of the NFL on NBC, back when the great Dick Enberg was the man back then.
Dick Enberg, Phil Simms, and Paul McGuire.
That is correct, Bo. You're right. But it's not going to be those guys calling this game. No. It's going to be, of course, Al Michaels with Chris Collinsworth and Michelle Tafoya. They're going to be there. First ever postseason meeting, like I said. But there is something that we do have to keep an eye on. And Michael Bullock, during one of our drives this week.
The weather.
Yes. When you told me this, I made a note of it.
Game, and I'll share it with the fans right now. It is going to be.
I saw it earlier. I was watching this. I was watching around the NFL on the NFL Network a little bit earlier on.
And it's going to be 3 degrees at kickoff.
Well, what I was going to say was I was watching them practice earlier. They showed video of the Vikings practicing. It was snowing. It was snowing, folks. When they were practicing in Eden Prairie, which is a suburb of Minneapolis, obviously.
Oof.
But no. Yeah, and I saw the snow was coming down, and I feel bad for Miss Stacey Dales because she had to do some reporting out there. I feel bad for the young lady. Oh, I tell you. But 105 here in the East We're talking about a 12:05 kickoff where they are. And I have the information right here. We're looking at a noon kickoff, right? Well, here's the good news. Well, it's good news and bad news here. The good news is it's going to be sunny. So the sun's going to be shining. So that's good news. Now, I may not be, like a Tony Petracca or a TJ Del Santo like Derek Ferreira is when it comes to, the weather and whatnot. But I'm going to try my best here. I'm looking at my hourly weather forecast for Sunday. Keep in mind it's a high noon kickoff, right? Minnesota time, since they're an hour behind, since they're an hour, behind us. Game time temperature at 12 noon on Sunday. 0 degrees with a wind chill of -14. How fun is that, huh? How would you like to play in that? How would you like to play in that, huh? You'd like that, wouldn't you? Well, probably not. And we're probably looking at the end of the game right around maybe 3 or 4 o'clock their time. Probably around 3 or 4 or so. That temperature, by the end of the game, should be 4 degrees with a wind chill of -9. Bring Park is Minnesota. It is going to be, you're going to be freezing your you-know-what's off. And this is going to be a lot of fun to watch. You know why? Because it's the first outdoor game in Minnesota in years. And probably over 35, 40 years or so. Not since the days when the Minnesota Vikings were playing outdoor football at the old Metropolitan Stadium. We all remember the old Met. Everybody remembers that. Metrodome opened right around, I want to say, 82, I think. So we're probably looking at right around late 70s, early 80s. Was the last time we saw a postseason game, an outdoor postseason game in Minnesota. So we're talking 0 degrees with a -14 wind chill at kickoff. And at game's end, we're looking at 4 degrees with a wind chill of -9. Yeesh. Yeesh. That is all I am saying, man. Yeesh. I feel bad for those folks in Minnesota who actually bought tickets and actually have to sit through this whole thing. But then again, we here in New England, we're used to weather like that. Trust us, we've had our share of cold weather before. We know what it's like. I mean, Bullock's been to Gillette Stadium before. I'm sure he's frozen his you-know-what off before. Am I right? He probably has. So,
yeah, I've been to a game that's been cold.
Was it a Patriot game?
Yeah.
Was it a regular season game? Postseason?
It was a regular season game, and it was during the 2003 season when they played the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I remember that.
And that was really cold. But that's not compared to what it's going to be like in Minnesota.
Yeah, like I said, at kickoff, 0 degrees with a wind chill of -14. How would you like to be sitting in that?
No.
That's what I thought. And then 4 degrees with a -9 wind chill by game's end. So, approximately. So, we'll see. But the good news is it will be sunny. There will be no snow. Oh, God, if there was snow, forget about it. That's all I can say. But now, on the more important matters, the game itself. They met earlier this year, as we all know. It was back on December 6th in Minnesota. Seahawks won that thing going away 38-7. Held the Vikings to 9 total first downs, 125 yards of total offense, forced a turnover, and the defense sacked Teddy Bridgewater 4 times. The Seahawks put up 433 yards of offense. Yeah, they committed a turnover, so what? And Minnesota's defense got to Russell Wilson twice. But Russell Wilson had 274 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Bridgewater had only 118 yards and 1 interception. That's it. Thomas Rawls, who filled in for the injured Marshawn Lynch, 101 yards and a touchdown rushing. Adrian Peterson and Jerick McKinnon both had 18 yards rushing apiece for Minnesota. Doug Baldwin had 94 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. Lockett was right behind with 90 yards receiving. Mike Wallace, 43 yards receiving for Minnesota. And as I get more information here, 4 sacks for the Seattle defense. Frank Clark had 2. Michael Bennett had 1. Bruce Irvin had the other. And Earl Thomas had an interception in that game that went for 25 yards. Like I said, the Viking defense managed to get to Russell Wilson twice, and Brian Robertson had both of those sacks. So those are the numbers from the schematics from that Seattle-Minnesota game back on December the 6th. Russell Wilson, you can honestly say, is probably the hottest quarterback in the game right now. And it's, I don't know what the span of games is, but right now, 4 touchdown passes with only 1 interception. That's crazy. 24 touchdowns and 1 interception. I don't know what the number of games is, what the span is. But anytime you throw 24 touchdown passes to only 1 interception, last time I checked, that's pretty good. So and the thing is, there is a slight chance Marshawn Lynch could be back. Pete Carroll saying that he could be back, but it's not a guarantee right now. So we'll see. But nonetheless, I gotta go with Seattle here because we all know.
Actually, Florio, I got some breaking news about the game. Marshawn Lynch did not travel with the team, and he's not going to play in this game.
And our friend Dan has commented, indeed, he likes Minnesota in this one. He says their fans are going to be crazy, freezing cold. It doesn't matter. They know how to handle it. Well, we know how to handle it. We're here in New England, as do they. In cold weather, it usually becomes the running game. And AP will dominate. They are a different team from last time they played Seattle. That is true. Minnesota did go into Green Bay, and they beat the Packers in that winner-take-all game. But again, respectfully, I have to disagree with our friend because of the fact that we've seen what Seattle's done the last 2 years now, haven't we? They've been to the Super Bowl last 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. Winning one, losing one. Although in many people's eyes, they should have won both. You know, they won Super Bowl 48, worst Super Bowl ever. You know, against Denver, absolute dud from start to finish. We all know that story. And then, of course, against the Patriots, a Super Bowl that many are calling the greatest Super Bowl of all time. A game that they honestly should have won, but they gagged it away because of what many are calling maybe the worst call in the history of the game.
Or, no pun intended, threw it away.
Yeah, threw it away when Russell Wilson was intercepted by Malcolm Butler. The point is, Seattle has been to the Super Bowl the last 2 years, looking to make it 3 in a row. And I think they're going to start that journey with a win here. Russell Wilson is just too good right now. Like I said, the 24 touchdowns to 1 interception ratio. I know the running game just took a major hit because of the breaking news that Mr. Bullock just shared about Marshawn Lynch. So we shall see. We shall wait and see what happens.
Yeah, so maybe it gives a little glimmer of hope.
And then, of course, as for course, the receiving core, we all know the receiving core is great. Everybody knows that. You know, like I said, Doug Baldwin had that big game against them. So we'll see. You never know. But and we can't forget about Tyler Lockett either. Tyler Lockett is becoming a fantastic young talent right before our very eyes. He's a rising star in the mix. So, and remember the Legion of Boom as well. I honestly cannot go against the Legion of Boom. I really can't. So Wilson's going to have a big game. I know the running game probably not going to be a factor at all. I think Baldwin's going to have another good game like he did against them on December 6th. I think Lockett's going to do well too. Maybe Jermaine Kearse could get in there too. I think the Legion of Boom is going to have an impact, no doubt about it. And then for Minnesota, Bridgewater might have a little better game, but I don't think he's going to have that much of a good game, honestly. Adrian Peterson, who is the only 1,000-yard rusher in the postseason this year out of all the teams, crazy, but you know that he was the leading rusher this year, 1,485 yards this year. But I think he'll have a solid game at best. I don't see him having a monster game like Dan thinks he will. I don't think so. And then receiving core, Stephon Diggs should have a solid game as well. But in that defense, but honestly, you have to go with the body of work over the last couple of years. And something about this time of the year, Seattle usually turns on the afterburners, and we know how dangerous they can be. So until I see different, I mean, would I be surprised if Minnesota won? No, because Minnesota's a very good team. I mean, they're a lot better than I thought they would be this year. I didn't think they were going to do anything this year, but they surprised the hell out of all of us. They won the NFC North. Nobody thought they were going to do that. They did. Going 11-5, you know, beat the Packers at Lambeau. First time since 2009 when Brett Favre did it. But at the end, I have to go with Seattle. I got to go with the Legion of Boom. 31-17, that's my final score. 31-17, the Seattle Seahawks over the Minnesota Vikings at TCF Bank Stadium. I cannot go against the Legion of Boom. I'm sorry. So with that said, Michael Bullock, are we going to see the Seahawks do what they do best? Are we going to see them make another potential Super Bowl run here? Or do you think the Minnesota Vikings can do the unthinkable and actually end the Seattle dominance in the NFC? So, Bullock, who do you got in this, what I'm going to call newest installment of the Freezer Bowl?
Yeah, well, like I said, the thing is, I mean, the Minnesota Vikings do have a little glimmer of hope with Marshawn Lynch. Now we know he's not going to play in this game, but I do agree. I mean, Seattle's on a roll right now. I mean, Russell Wilson, he's playing out of his mind. I mean, you got Tyler Lockett, who was basically stepping up. Maybe we'll also see some of Jermaine Kearse. And you can't go against the Legion of Boom with guys like, of course, Cam Chancellor and Richard Sherman and Earl Thomas. And of course also Cliff Averill and Bruce Irvin. You can't go against them. I mean, who knows? Maybe Minnesota could give him some fits. I mean, especially when you got Adrian Peterson, Teddy Bridgewater. I think he'll have an all right game, but I don't think it's going to be enough. But I do agree. I got Seattle winning this one. My final score, I'm going to go Seattle 34 and Minnesota 20. So, yeah, so really got nothing more to say except let's move on to the final game of Wild Card Weekend on the NFC side.
And that will be the Green Bay Packers going up against the Washington Redskins, FedEx Field, Landover, Maryland. Another home field I disagree with. This game honestly should be at Lambeau Field in Green Bay because the Packers have the better record, but you know, it is what it is. So we got the Green Bay Packers and the Washington Redskins. Kickoff slated for 4:40. This game will be on Fox. You have to imagine it'll be Joe Buck with Troy Aikman. Normally, we would just say Aaron Andrews, but I wouldn't be surprised if they throw in Chris Myers on top of that, because we've seen that over the last few years, haven't we? We've seen Chris
the
Myers.
last few years.
We've seen 2 sideline reporters with the Buck and Aikman crew. We've seen not just Aaron Andrews, but also Chris Myers. So don't be surprised if they add Chris Myers to the mix with Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, and Aaron Andrews for this game on Sunday evening. So and remember, we're only going by postseason here. We're not counting the regular season. Believe it or not, the Packers and the Redskins have met in the postseason before, twice. And and they split them both. The first postseason game that they met in went down on December 13th of 1936, when it was the Boston Redskins going up against the Green Bay Packers. And this game was actually at the Polo Grounds, the legendary Polo Grounds in New York City. And it was the Packers who won that game by a score of 21-6. The second and the last time they met in the postseason, Christmas Eve, 1972, at RFK Stadium in Washington, the legendary RFK Stadium, which I believe it actually still stands to this day, if I'm not mistaken. And the Redskins won that game by a score of 16-3. Of course, the Redskins went on to the Super Bowl that year, only to lose to the undefeated Dolphins, as we all know. So, so those are the 2 postseason games they've met in before. I forgot to mention Seattle is the favorite in that game against Minnesota. That's not a surprise. 4-6. They're 4-6 point favorites in that game. And as far as this game is concerned, I think they have. Well, it's a split. There are 6 different spreads I have here. 5 of them favor the Washington Redskins by 1 point, while one other spread has Green Bay by 1 point as well. So read into that what you will. They did not meet in the regular season, so no need for schematics. So with that said, Michael Bullock, 3rd time these 2 teams are meeting in the postseason. Packers won all the way back in 36. And, of course, the Redskins won on Christmas Eve 72. So I ask you, with this game in Washington, can the Redskins do the unthinkable? Can the Redskins beat Aaron Rodgers and the Packers? Or do you have Aaron Rodgers and the Packers flexing their muscle like they usually do? So Packers, Redskins, Mr. Bullock, who you got going to NFC divisional weekend?
Yeah, well, what can you say about Green Bay? I mean, they've been struggling as of late. I mean, especially on the offensive side of the ball, and they're looking to avoid their second 3-game losing streak of the season. And I mean, the real struggle on them is the offense in this game. I mean, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, what can you? I mean, last weekend in that game against Minnesota, he went 28 of 44 for 291 yards with only 1 touchdown and a pick, and he got sacked 5 times in that game. And the 2-time MVP hasn't thrown for more than 2 scores in a career high 8 straight, while also turning the ball over 8 times in his last 6. And Aaron Rodgers finished with his lowest completion percentage since 2006 and his lowest passer rating since 2008. So, and he's also been sacked 13 times in the last 2 games. So that's got to be a little concerning for for going up against a Washington team that has racked up 14 sacks over its past 3. And Green Bay finished 23rd in the league with 334.6 total yards per game, its lowest since 2005. So Yeah, so that's got to be a little concerning for Green Bay. So yeah, so and of course the Redskins. I mean, nobody expected the Redskins to win the NFC East. I certainly didn't. So and they've been on a roll at home. They've won 6 of their past 7 home games, but they haven't won a postseason contest since beating Tampa Bay 17-10 on the road in the wild card round at the end of the 2005 season. But they're seeking their first victory of the year over a team that's finished above 500. So, and in the past 3 games for Washington, they've averaged 35.7 points and 428.7 total yards. So the offense has definitely played well. So yeah, so could it be possibility that that the Redskins could pull off the upset? As much as I want to say yes, I got to go with Green Bay. I think they're going to somehow find a way to get back on track. I think Aaron Rodgers will have a solid game here. Eddie Lacy, I think he'll have a solid game here. So, but I think the Redskins will definitely give him some fits, especially with the way Kirk Cousins has been playing. I like his body of work, and with the way Jordan Reed has played in the last 4 games. And the same thing could be said with Pierre Garcon, but either way, I just can't go against Green Bay. I mean, would I be surprised if Washington does somehow win this game? No, I wouldn't be, but I have to go with the Green Bay Packers in this one. My final score for me, I'm going to go Washington. Well, actually, I'm going to go Green Bay 24, Washington 21. So, Florio, can the Redskins pull off the upset, or will Green Bay get back on track and win and move on to the divisional round? So, Florio, it's yours.
Before I do that, our friend Dan commented again. He's giving us his 2 cents here. He likes Washington. He likes the Washington Redskins in this game. He says Green Bay is not the team they have been the last couple of seasons. No O-line to speak of to protect Aaron from that killer Washington D. And Cousins has been impressive this year, 4,166 yards and 29 touchdown passes. Not to mention, Kirk Cousins led the league in completion percentage this year. You heard me right. Kirk Cousins led the league in completion percentage, completing almost 75% of his passes this year. So there is potential for an upset here. Of course, we know the story about Green Bay. They were one of the hot teams this year. They started the year 6-0, but they went ice cold down the stretch, went 4-6 after a 6-0 start to finish the year 10-6 and second in the NFC North. We all thought they were going to, it was their division to lose, but no, not to be. I think the one killer, the fact that, remember, they lost Jordy Nelson before the season even started. They lost Jordy Nelson in a preseason game in the month of August. I think it was the 16th or the 23rd of August. They had an early afternoon game against the Pittsburgh Steelers at Heinz Field, and we all remember Jordy Nelson injured, I think it was his knee or something, I don't know. But Jordy Nelson ended up getting hurt so bad that he ended up being out for the year before the season even started. And I think that may come back to haunt Green Bay. I really do. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Aaron Rodgers. I love his body of work. He's amazing. Of course, Eddie Lacy's great too. And then, of course, you got James Jones and Randall Cobb leading the way on the receiving end. But also watch out for Devontae Adams and, of course, our favorite bullet, Richard Rodgers, the other half of that Rodgers connection from that infamous Hail Mary game last month. We all remember that. And all the fun we had with it. Trust me, we had a lot of fun with it. But say it like this. If the game was in Lambeau, I definitely would go with the Packers here because of their history at Lambeau, especially in the postseason. But with this game in Washington, and with how hot Cousins has been lately, I mean, I know the running game needs work. I know Alfred Morris and Matt Jones, really have to wake up on the running game. I get that. But like Bullock said, Jordan Reed has been playing out of his mind as of late. Pierre Garcon's been catching fire. Heck, Deshaun Jackson's even been doing some things lately. Let's not forget about him. And they have a solid defense. Let's not kid ourselves. So I'll say it like this. You've heard me say it on this show time and time again. If I'm wrong, whatever. It is what it is. I'm going for the upset here. I actually like the Washington Redskins in this game. I'm actually going to agree with Dan in this. I like the Redskins too. Because of the fact that the games in Washington won. And the Redskins have been very hot. Like Bullock said, they've won 6 out of their last 7 at home. Kirk Cousins, like I said, led the league in completion percentage. The Redskins have been playing. They've actually been playing a lot better than Green Bay has as of late. I believe they're currently on a 3-game winning streak, a 3 or 4 game winning streak right now. And that's what got them to the NFC East title. I'm really not feeling Green Bay right now. I mean, would I be surprised if Green Bay won? No. Of course not. Because we all know Green Bay's history in the postseason. Everybody knows that. Whether it was Bart Starr and his crew back in the 60s and 70s, or Brett Favre in the 90s and 2000s, or Aaron Rodgers nowadays. I'm sorry. I'm just not feeling Green Bay right now. Especially after that, I hate to say it, but piss poor performance against Minnesota. I thought they looked really piss poor in that game. I really do. And they deserve to lose that game. They really do. They would have been lucky to win that game, but the right team won that game, honestly, in Minnesota. So with that said, I'm calling for the upset. I say the Redskins win it, and I'll even go as far as saying I think this is going to be the best game of Wild Card Weekend. I really do. I think this game has potential to be a 5-star classic, chock full of some fine Shakespearean drama here. I really do. So I'm going with the Redskins to win this game. 38-31. There you have it. 38-31. Kirk Cousins, big game. Hopefully something from Alfred Morris or Matt Jones in the running game. I like to see one of those two guys get going. I think Jordan Reed is going to be Jordan Reed's going to be the breakout star here. I think he's going to have another breakout game. I think Garcon could have a solid game here, and Deshaun Jackson as well. So, but on the other side, I do think Rodgers will have a solid game. I really do. I think Lacey's going to have a good game running. I also think the receiving core with James Jones and Randall Cobb will do some things, but I got to go with the Skins here. I'm really feeling the Skins' body of work right now. I really am. So 38-31, Washington wins. So with that said, that concludes that. And Dan agrees that he thinks it's going to be the best game too. Yeah, definitely. So with all that said, we move on now to the College Football Playoff National Championship game. Monday night at University of Phoenix Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. The Alabama Crimson Tide and the Clemson Tigers, 1 versus 2 for the national championship, as it should be. Chris Fowler, Kirk Herbstreit in the booth. Sidelines will have not 1 but 2 reporters, Heather Cox and Tom Rinaldi. They'll be on the sidelines for this championship game on Monday night. And to the surprise of no one, Alabama, sizable favorite, 6.5 to 7 is the spread for Alabama. So, excuse me. Say it like this. I got a good feeling about this game. I think this game could be one of the better championship games we've seen in a while. The last really good one we saw, we all remember that Auburn Florida State game from a few years ago. I mean, what a game that ended up being. My goodness. 2 years ago, yes. that game in the Rose Bowl, of course, the one that Florida State went on to win, which ended up being a 5-star classic and chock full of the finest Shakespearean drama you'll ever see. Last year, not so much, when Ohio State and Oregon battled it out in Jerry World. It was all Ohio State all the time, and that one, I was a damn near dud. This game perhaps has potential to be that. But look at it like this. Toss up, do it like a tail of the tape here. In the quarterback position, you got Jake Coker for Alabama, and you got Deshaun Watson for Clemson. I got to give the edge to Watson. I like Deshaun Watson a little bit more than Jake Coker in the quarterback position. So in the quarterback position, give me Deshaun Watson. Two great running backs, Derrick Henry for Alabama, Wayne Gallman for Clemson. I love Gallman, don't get me wrong, but you obviously have to give the edge to Derrick Henry, obviously. Excuse me. Hello, Heisman Trophy winner. Hello. And then receiving core, you could consider that a toss-up because, Calvin Ridley leading the way for Alabama, and then, you got some good young talent on Clemson's side with Deion Kane and Jordan Leggett. I don't know what's going on. Maybe Artavis Scott, maybe back from that little suspension, because remember he had to miss the semifinal game against Oklahoma because he was sent home, as we all know. Defensively, you have to give the edge to Alabama. Minka Fitzpatrick. Enough said there. And coaching-wise, you obviously have to give the edge to Alabama. Hello, Nick Saban. Big game experience, multi-time national champion. I mean, I love Dabo Swinney. I love what he's done with this Clemson team. And I'm going to be honest with you. Honestly, I want Clemson to win this game. No disrespect to Alabama, but I'd really love to see Clemson win this game and win this national championship. A couple of reasons. One, they haven't won this since 1981. Number two, because of the fact that Michael Fletcher was high on this team from day one. When we did our little college football preview back on August 28th of last summer, who was that one team that Fletcher was very high on from that day forward? Clemson. So that's the other reason. And, honestly, I feel like this is like a David versus Goliath type matchup here. Because you got Alabama as Goliath, the big, bad, dominant powerhouse. And then you got Clemson, the lovable underdog. And you know how much Bullock and I love underdog stories, considering we're underdogs ourselves in life at times. But at the end of the day, you have to go with body of work. You have to go with experience. And as much as I want to see Clemson win this game, and I do, I have to go with the Alabama Crimson Tide to win this national championship. Why? Just like the Patriots in the NFL, they always find a way to win. Coker should have a solid game. I think Derrick Henry is going to be the difference maker. I think he's going to be the MVP of this game. I wouldn't be surprised because I think he's going to go off, prove that Heisman Trophy was no fluke. Ridley in the receiving corps should do just enough. And I think the defense with Fitzpatrick and company are going to make enough big plays. On the other side, I do see Deshaun Watson having a big game. I do. I also see Gallman having a decent game, and that receiving core with Kane and Leggett and those guys. Maybe Scott if he's back from a little disciplinary thing. So, but let's be realistic. Alabama's just too damn good. Just like Triple H used to say in the WWE, they are that damn good. I want Clemson to win. I do. But we got to think realistic here, friends. Alabama, college football playoff national champions. Final score 35-24. Alabama wins the national championship. And I'm just checking to see what our friend Dan says. Yep. He pretty much agrees with me. He actually has Alabama by double digits. He thinks he thinks Derrick Henry will have at least 3 touchdowns. But he agrees. He'd rather see Clemson win though, like me. So that's it. 35-24, Alabama wins the national championship. So Michael Bullock, $1 million question. Does the Alabama legacy, the Alabama dynasty continue? Or do the Clemson Tigers do the unthinkable and pull a Daniel Bryan miracle on Bourbon Street type thing? So bottom line, does Alabama add to their legendary dominance and legacy and dynasty? Or are the Clemson Tigers going to be that team of destiny that we've been searching for the last few years? First time since 81. Your thoughts on the big one?
Yeah, this is going to be a big one. Can Clemson do the impossible and upset Alabama, or will the Alabama reign continue? I hate to do this, but I think the Alabama reign is going to continue. I got the Crimson Tide winning this one as well. My final score for me, I'm going to say 38-24 is going to be my final score. I think Coker is going to have a solid game. I think Derrick Henry is going to have a solid game as well. The reigning Heisman Trophy winner. I think the key here is definitely the defense. And as we always used to say when it comes to Alabama, they don't rebuild, they reload. And Nick Saban, he does a really good job with that for Alabama. Clemson, they could be in it for most of the game, especially when you got Deshaun Watson in there and the rest of that high-powered offense. But I think it's just too much Alabama for me. So I too am going to go with the Alabama Crimson Tide to win the second ever college football playoff national championship and the third for Alabama in the third in the last 6 years if I'm correct. So give me Alabama to win this one. So Florio, it's time for the last power rankings of the year in the NFL, we should say.
Yeah, I wish we didn't have to do it because it's going to be so difficult because, this is going to be the toughest one, I can honestly say.
Yeah, I wish we didn't have to do it because it's gonna be tough.
Yeah, it is. But nonetheless, we got to do it. So duty calls, right? So all right. So not really sure, but I suppose I guess I'm gonna have to start it off. I don't have a choice because I know you're not ready yet. So
especially when it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, no doubt about that. So I definitely have a good idea of who number one should be, honestly, and it's not who you think. That's all I can say about that. So couple of teams are going to be getting punished this time around, if I'm going to be honest, because of bad performances and everything else. there's definitely going to be some shakeups here. There's absolutely no doubt about that whatsoever. I think we're all in agreement there. So as I wait for my spreadsheet to load up. Okay, so excuse me. So number 10, and even though this team's not going to the postseason, even though and I have a tie at number 10, even though neither of these teams are going to the postseason, they both closed out the regular season very strongly, and they finished the year both at 8-8. So I'm going to go with co-number 10s here. My Buffalo Bills and the Indianapolis Colts. They both finished the year 8-8, closed out the year on 2-game winning streaks. The Buffalo Bills, of course, defeating both the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Jets, ending the Jets' playoff hopes, dashing the Jets' playoff hopes, rather. So, and I think we should do a rapid fire way, like we've been doing the last few weeks, so we don't have to really go into great detail, honestly. The Colts, it was just a case of too little, too late. I mean, if it wasn't for that loss to Houston, they would have been in. But they closed out the year with the back-to-back wins against the Miami Dolphins and excuse me, and the Tennessee Titans. So so the Buffalo Bills and the Indianapolis Colts are my co-number 10s this time around. So Bullock, do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I actually agree with you. I got the Buffalo Bills and the Indianapolis Colts as my number 10 as well. So, I think you pretty much touched on everything. So I say we just move right along and move on to our excuse me, our number 9.
And this team definitely going down as well. Well, excuse me. This team's definitely going down. My number 9, I have to go with the Green Bay Packers. They've lost 2 games in a row. Closed the year at a 10-6 record. They closed the season with remember that bad loss against Arizona, 38-8, and then that even worse loss to Minnesota. And honestly, I don't like their chances against the Redskins. Unless they prove it to me differently, I cannot in good conscience go with this team at this time. So I'm just going to come out and say it. Green Bay Packers are my number 9. So Bullock, agree or disagree?
I agree with you. Who was it that you had as your number 9?
Green Bay.
Yeah, Green Bay is my number 9. So yeah, so there's really nothing more for me to say. I mean, you pretty much touched on it. So let's I say we just move right along with our number 8.
Okay. Number 8. As far as number 8 is concerned, all right, let's see. I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 8. Steelers are going to be my number 8, 10-6. Closed the year with a 28-12 win against the Cleveland Browns. Many thought their playoff chances were done after losing to the Baltimore Ravens a couple weeks ago. But it all ended up working out because they had an easy win against Cleveland, and the Jets ended up surprisingly losing to Buffalo. So that really opened the door for Pittsburgh to get in there, and I'm glad they did because they're a fun team to watch, like I said. So I can't wait to see what they do tomorrow night against Cincinnati. But to me, I think they deserve to be the number 8 team. So give me the Steelers at number 8, Pittsburgh Steelers number 8. So Bullock, do you agree or disagree?
I agree with you. Pittsburgh Steelers is my number 8. So yeah, let's just move right along with our number 7.
And I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks at number 7. They're also 10-6 and on a 1-game winning streak, but it's because of what they did. What they did against the Arizona Cardinals. 36-6 beatdown. I mean, what they did in this game was just unreal. Defense forces 3 turnovers, records 2 sacks, outgains them 354 to 232. Russell Wilson goes off for 3 touchdown passes. Christine Michael, who's probably going to be the guy because of both Rawls and Lynch being out, 102 yards rushing. And Cliff Averill with a 1.5 sack performance, Bennett with a 0.5 sack performance. So, and they also had 3 interceptions. Jeremy Lane has 1 for 6 yards. Earl Thomas with 1 for 10 yards, and Deshaun Sheed 40 yards. The only reason why I'm going into detail on this is because of the fact that, because these are numbers that I really had to share with you all. So so that's the only reason. I'm only going to go into great detail when I feel it's necessary to. And I felt here it was necessary to. So number 7, it is the Seattle Seahawks. So Bullock, again, agree or disagree?
Yeah, my number 7 is the Seattle Seahawks. So yeah, you pretty much touched on it. So let's move on to number 6.
All right. Number 6. My number 6, I have a tie at number 6. A couple of 9-7 teams, but they're hot teams right now. One team's won 4 games in a row. The other's won 3 games in a row. Those 2 teams being the Washington Redskins and the Houston Texans. I really think they both deserve to be rewarded here. I mean, I'm really loving their body of work as of late. Washington's won 4 in a row, like I mentioned. And that's why they won the NFC East. And 3 of those 4 wins, by the way, on the road. That's even more impressive. They won in Chicago, in Philadelphia, and in Dallas. The home win, well, that was against Buffalo. So Chicago, Buffalo, Philadelphia, Dallas. So read into that what you will. And I think they have a legitimate chance to upset the Packers on Sunday. I really do. As for the Texans, 3-game winning streak. 2 of those 3 wins were on the road. And they outscored their opponents during this 3-game winning streak by a count of 80-22. Of course, they snuck by Indianapolis. That's the game that won them the division, like I said, 16-10. And then 34-6 beat down at Tennessee, and then a 30-6 beat down at Jacksonville to win the division. J.J. Watt had a monster year, 17.5 sacks. Whitney Mercilus with 12 right behind. So do they have a chance against Kansas City? Absolutely. But do I think they'll beat Kansas City? No, I just don't. Co-number 6 is Washington Redskins, Houston Texans. Michael Bullock, do we agree or do we disagree?
I agree with you. It's the Houston Texans, Washington Redskins are my number 6 as well. So, yeah, so nothing else to say except let's move on to the top 5.
Okay. Top 5. Started off. And I have a tie at number 5. I don't know how Bullock's going to feel about it, but I'm gonna try him anyway. Sorry to do this to you, man, but one of them is your team, the New England Patriots, because they've lost 2 in a row. And the other I have to do it. The Arizona Cardinals, because it was very disappointing what happened against Seattle. They were the hottest team going into that game against Seattle, and then Seattle just absolutely manhandled them. I mean, you heard those numbers I just said about Arizona, so I'm not even going to bother with that. For the Patriots, a rare two for the second time this season. I mean, here's the thing. They started the year, what was it, 10-0? And after a 10-0 start, they lose 4 of their last 6. They had a two-game losing streak against Denver and Philadelphia. Then they bounced back with wins against Houston and Tennessee. And then another 2-game losing streak at the hands of the Jets in Miami on the road. So read into that what you will. Of course, we all know we'll next see them a week from Saturday, a week from today, when they host the first game of the divisional playoff weekend, which will be on CBS, by the way. So we'll see what happens with that. So with that said, co-number 5s, the Arizona Cardinals and the New England Patriots. Michael Bullock, agree or disagree?
I agree. It is the New England Patriots, and the Arizona Cardinals is my number 6. I mean, both with disappointing performances. So, yeah, so there's really nothing more for me to say except let's move on in our power rankings.
And I believe it's number 4, correct?
Yeah, number 4.
Okay. As far as number 4 is concerned, I think I have a tie at number 4, do I? Cincinnati, Denver. Yeah, there's a tie at number 4. And that tie is going to be the Cincinnati Bengals and the Denver Broncos are going to be my co-number 4s. Is that how I have it? I just want to be absolutely sure. Yes, that is correct. Well, actually, no. I'm just going to have the Cincinnati Bengals as my standalone number 4. There will be a tie at number 3. Standalone number 4, solo number 4. It is the Cincinnati Bengals. After a slow start against the Ravens last week, they found a way to get it done. They caught fire late, won the game 24-16. They won the AFC North. They get the Steelers tomorrow night. Don't like their chances, but we'll have to wait and see. So, remember, no Andy Dalton. He's out. So, read into all this what you will. So, it's as simple as that. So, number 4, standalone. It is the Cincinnati Bengals. So, Michael Bullock, agree or disagree with that?
Yeah, I agree with you. Cincinnati Bengals is my number 4. So, yeah, so really got nothing more to say except let's move on to the top 3.
All right. Number 3, it's tough, but they played some good ball as of late. They've won 3 in a row and overtook the Green Bay Packers to win the NFC North. My number 3 is the Minnesota. Actually, I have a tie at number 3, rather. This is where I have the tie at number 3. One of them is the Minnesota Vikings, and the other is the Denver Broncos. Vikings have won 3 in a row, closed the year at 11-5, won the NFC North. And they did it with victories against the Chicago Bears, the New York Giants, and the Green Bay Packers. Of course, in those games against the Bears and the Giants, they combined to outscore the Bears and the Giants by a count of 87-34. And when you factor in the Green Bay game, they outscored they outscored their three opponents during that streak by a count of 107 to 47. So big difference there. Adrian Peterson, the only 1,000-yard rusher in the playoffs this year out of all the playoff teams. They're going to have a cold one against the Seahawks, but honestly, I don't like their chances. So they're my first number three. The other number three is the Denver Broncos. They did the unthinkable. They became the number one seed in the AFC. We all thought it was going to be the Patriots to lose, but no, they took full advantage. They took full advantage of the Patriots' sloppy last two games, and they followed that up with wins against the Cincinnati Bengals and the San Diego Chargers. So they won the AFC West. They have the home field. The road to the Super Bowl in the AFC goes to Sports Authority Field in Mile High in Denver. We'll see them on January 17th. That's a Sunday afternoon in the final game of divisional playoff weekend. We don't know who that's going to be at this time. But what we do know is Peyton Manning. That's right. Peyton Manning, not Brock Osweiler. Peyton Manning is going to be the starting quarterback for that divisional game, regardless of who the opponent is. So keep that in mind. Co-number threes, Minnesota Vikings, Denver Broncos. Agree or disagree with that, Bullet?
Yeah, I agree with you. It is the Minnesota Vikings, and the Denver Broncos is my number three. So really got nothing more to say except let's move on to number two.
I know the team with the best overall record should be the number one team in the power rankings and whatnot. But in all honesty, really cannot do it. My number two is the Carolina Panthers. Yeah, they finished the year 15-1. I understand that, but I'll say it like this: if they had gone undefeated, definitely would have been number one. Definitely. But remember, they had that hiccup against the Atlanta Falcons. But they bounced back in a big way and easily took care of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, made them look like the Yuccaneers. They won that 38-10 to wrap up the home field in the NFC. Defense recorded 2 sacks and forced 3 turnovers. Cam Newton had 293 yards and 2 touchdown passes. The rushing attack did have 3 touchdowns. Newton had 2 rushing touchdowns, and Cameron Artis-Payne had a touchdown. The Auburn connection. Tolbert, 59 yards. Devin Funchess was the leading receiver, 120 yards and a touchdown. Usually it's Greg Olsen or Ted Ginn, but not much out of them. Couple of sacks for the defense. Kyle Love and Mario Addison had those sacks. 2 interceptions, Robert McClain and Thomas Davis. So I know in many people's eyes, this team should be I know many people's eyes, Carolina should be the number one team, but in all honesty, if they had gone undefeated, they would have. But there's a team right now that I think is playing the best ball of any team right now, and they're the hottest team right now, and I think they need to be rewarded as the number one team. That's just how I feel. So, like it or not, my number 2 is the Carolina Panthers. So, Bullet, do you agree or do you disagree?
I have to agree with you. It is the Carolina Panthers as my number 2. So, yeah, so there's really nothing more to say. You pretty much touched on it. So let's move on to number 1.
I think we all know who that new number 1 is. Winners of 10 in a row. It is the hottest team in the NFL right now, the Kansas City Chiefs. There's nothing left to say. 10-game winning streak. Hottest team right now. Haven't lost since a 16-10 loss at Minnesota on October 18. They took care of the Raiders 23-17. I mean, they're clicking on all cylinders right now. They held the Raiders to just 205 yards of total offense. Defense forced a turnover. Oh, by the way, the defense recorded 6 sacks of Derek Carr, by the way. Alex Smith may not have had the best game, but, he had an efficient game. 156 yards, 2 touchdown passes, but he did throw 2 interceptions. Spencer Ware, 76 yards and a touchdown. For the rushing attack, Macklin had a receiving touchdown, 54 yards. 6 sacks for the defense, like I said. And it was 1 sack apiece for the following players: Ron Parker, Tyvon Branch, Frank Zombo, Jay Howard, Mike DeVito, and D Ford. Yeah, those were the guys. Oh, and by the way, Parker also had an interception as well. So let's keep that in mind. So winners of 10 in a row and the hottest team right now. And because of that, I think they need to be handsomely rewarded. And there's no way you can say that the Kansas City Chiefs should not be number 1 in this final installment of the Power Rankings. So, number 1, the Kansas City Chiefs, 10 in a row. You can't ignore that. Well, look, I know you obviously agree with me, so just put us out of our misery anyway.
Yeah, number 1 is the Kansas City Chiefs for me. So, so there's really nothing more for me to say except let's put a bow on this edition of Strictly Sports Football Friday.
Amen to that, brother. So that's gonna put the bow on this edition, this abbreviated edition of Football Friday. I want to thank you all so very much for tuning in, and a special thanks to our friend Dan Kamanapali for chiming in with the comments on the Facebook right now, and he actually agrees with our power rankings. Kansas City Chiefs, number 1 team, and he says that KC is the team that no one wants to play right now. No doubt about that. I agree with that 100%. So, but that could all change tomorrow. You never know. So, so there you go. So, so you know how we do it. Time now for our shout outs, as you all know. So, Michael Bullock, do the honors with your shout outs, and then I'll take it, and then I'll set up the future content. So, Bullock, it's all yours.
All right. We want to thank you all so very much for tuning in for another edition of Strictly Sports Football Friday. Of course, shout outs to all of our tremendous fans and viewers out there who continue to support our shows, whether it's this or the whether it's this or whether it's this or the wrestling forum. It doesn't matter. We really appreciate it. And of course, shout outs to all of our super fans: Dee Woodson, Kevin Woodson, Matt Ward, Jason Hicksonbaugh. And of course, shout outs to all of our friends from our high school days: Al Brederson, Jimmy Alden, Rob Parsons, Eric Carrier, Tom Souza, the First Lady of Strictly Sports, Kaiser Butler, the First Lady of the Wrestling Forum, Megan Silva, to Derek Ferrer for his continued success on the sports blog, to of course to Michael Fletcher, who couldn't be with us because of work commitments. Of course, our local personalities: Ken Bell from ABC6, Yanni Caracas, Mark Dondero, and Patrick Lill from Channel 12, Frank Arpano and Joe Chiara from NBC 10, Jenny Dell of CBS, and of course from all the personalities from ESPN and Fox Sports 1, and of course our friends from The Roadshow, the former co-hosts Mary Larson and Megan Mooney, and of course the 3 current people: Will Gilbert, Brendan Kirby, and Michaela Johnson. Of course, we can't forget about Emily Austin as well, and then of course to Stata Sorrell and Lindsay McCormick. So yeah, that's pretty much gonna do it for me. So until Monday night for an all new edition of the Wrestling Forum, this is Mike Bullock saying thank you all so very much for listening to us. And of course, you know the routine: thumbs up, talk to you later, yeah, throw it up Fortune 4 style. Bye for now. Enjoy your wild card playoff weekend in the NFL, and of course, yeah, so bye for now. So Florio, let's put a bow on this edition of Strictly Sports Football Friday.
Amen to that, brother. So, special shout out to all of our tremendous fans and viewers out there who continue to make our shows ridiculously over as they are, whether it is Strictly Sports or the Wrestling Forum. We appreciate it as always. A very special thanks to our friend Dan Kamanapali for all the comments and feedback he provided us tonight. Definitely appreciate that, brother. Hopefully you'll continue to do that in the weeks and months to come. We appreciate any feedback we can get on behalf of all of us here at Strictly Sports, on behalf of myself and Bullock, and I'm sure Michael Fletcher and Derek Ferreira would agree with that wholeheartedly. So very special shout out to Dan indeed. Of course, in addition to him, all of our other super fans, Dee Dee Woodson, Kevin Woodson, and the entire Woodson family. Of course, Matt Ward, Jason Hicksonbaugh, our friend Daniel Luttrell from the UK, and his continued success in the world of filmmaking. We hope that goes well for him. Of course, all of our local television personalities from the world of sports and the news, obviously from Channel 6, 10, and 12, and all of our friends at ESPN and Fox Sports 1 and MLB Network, NFL Network, NHL Network, obviously, all those wonderful folks who continue to do great things over there. And Olivia Harlan, special shout out to her. And a shout out to all of the great NFL commentary crews who I know are going to do a great job throughout this playoff weekend. I cannot wait to hear their great calls as always. And then, of course, our friends from The Road Show, former co-host Megan Mooney and Mary Larson, along with the current hosts Will Gilbert, Brendan Kirby, and Michaela Johnson. Great week as always. Of course, Lindsay McCormick and Stata Sorrell. And obviously, last but not least, of course, my church family at Oasis of Grace Ministries on 464 Silver Spring Street in Providence. I'll be seeing them this Sunday for another great Sunday service as usual. So if you need a church home, check them out. Exit 25 off of Route 95. They're fantastic over there. Pastors Carl and Lucille Russo continue to do their thing. Of course, at 9 a.m. Bible study the Sunday morning, and then the service following that at 10 a.m. and then the Wednesday night Bible study at 7 p.m. and as well as any other special events going on throughout the months. So check them out. They're wonderful. So that's going to put the ball on this edition of Football Friday. Of course, next time we'll see you will be Monday night, following Monday Night Raw, of course, for the Wrestling Forum. I'll be here. Michael Bullock will be here. Hopefully we'll have Michael Fletcher back as we continue the road to the Royal Rumble and the most anticipated Royal Rumble match in recent memory. As we all know, the reason why it's so anticipated, this particular Royal Rumble match is so anticipated this year, we all know why. The WWE World Heavyweight Championship is on the line in this baby. So we cannot wait for that. So some new names were announced on the SmackDown last night, that debut SmackDown on the USA Network. Of course, we all know that story. The New Day, all three members of the New Day will be in that. The Miz is going to be in that. Adrian Neville's going to be in that. R-Truth's going to be in that. Just some of the new names that were added to the list of 30 participants. I mean, I think that's more than half of the field that has been filled. And, of course, some other big news in the world of professional wrestling, obviously. John Cena undergoing shoulder surgery. Approximately 6 to 9 months he's out. Then, of course, Sasha Banks battling an injury bug right now. So hopefully the boss will be back soon enough. And a lot of injuries right now in the WWE. So, and then, of course, if you didn't see that first installment of TNA Impact Wrestling on Pop TV, the World Title Series is over. We have a new TNA World Heavyweight Champion, although this individual has won it before. He's now a two-time champion. Ethan Carter III, of course, best known to WWE fans as Derek Bateman. Yep, Derek Bateman, a.k.a. Ethan Carter III, once again, the TNA World Heavyweight Champion. He defeated Bobby Lashley in the semifinals, and then in the championship match, he defeated Matt Hardy. So Ethan Carter III is once again your TNA Heavyweight Champion. So congratulations to him. Phenomenal talent. I love his body of work. So we'll see how long this latest run will last. And I got a feeling this one's going to last a while. I really do. So that's pretty much your latest news from the world of professional wrestling. So that's Monday night. And then, of course, next Friday night, Strictly Sports. The only thing on the docket that I know of as of right now, of course, will be us previewing all 4 games as part of NFL divisional playoff weekend. So that's the only thing I do. And I'm sure there'll be a power rankings. I believe it's going to be either the NHL or the NBA. Hopefully, Derek Ferreira will have a docket for us within the coming days, so we can report that on Monday night. So that'll do it. So until Monday night for the Wrestling Forum, it's Anthony Florio here for Michael Bullock, and in spirit, Michael Fletcher and Derek Ferreira. Of course, I can't forget about our friends from our high school days, obviously. I just wanted to mention them real quick. They know who they are. Fletch, obviously, who couldn't be with us due to work commitments. Derek Ferreira continuing to do the sports blog thing. We hope that goes well for him. Continued success. We wish him continued success with that. And of course, Megan Silva, Kaiser Butler, and of course, Eric Carrier, Tommy Souza, Jimmy Alden, Albraderson, and Rob Parsons as usual, and the rest of our crews. So wanted to make sure they got their shout outs. So for Michael Bullock, and in spirit, Michael Fletcher and Derek Ferreira, Anthony Florio here once again saying, you know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah, throw it up, Fortune Force style. Have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy all the NFL playoff action. Enjoy the championship game on Monday night. And until Monday night for the Wrestling Forum, you've been watching Strictly Sports Football Friday right here on the Tone 25 on YouTube.com. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. And for now, Anthony Florio with Michael Bullock. So long.